Hey YouTubers. So it's been about a week since I did my unboxing of the new iPad Air 2, and I've used it all week, and I'm here to basically do, as I said, an impressions, a little bit of a review, that sort of thing on the device now that I've carried it for a while. So as I said in my first video, I upgraded my iPad mini to, ooh, cool. Ooh. Yeah. Anyway, I replaced this guy with this guy. So here's the iPad Air 2. And the reason I did this, as I said, is mostly because as I'm aging, my eyes just need larger type. And there are some workarounds for that on all the iPads. And I had done that. I had turned up the OS 8 font size, not to the max because then it's ridiculous. And it doesn't affect all fonts either or all text that you see. But, I jacked it up 75% of the way. And then I also have you can get a piece of JavaScript that'll also allow you in the browser to increase your font size on a given page. But you have to do that on every page you visit. And on the tiny little screen, the tiny little toolbar icon is almost impossible to hit. And I'm going to show that in a video and explain how that works. But anyway, it just became kind of a pain in the butt. And aside from that, I love the Mini. I love its form factor. I can hold it like this. It'll fit in a cargo pocket at a stretch if you gotta. It's a little heavy for that, but it does work. I've done it at conferences. So, it's just super portable, as everyone knows. So I loved all of that about this machine. I didn't replace it because the iPad Air 2 has a faster processor or the fancy screen or any of that stuff. It was purely because I just needed a bigger form factor to get the fonts a little bit larger and easier to read at a distance. For example, I use this for whenever I got it, a year and a half or whatever, when I work out. So I stick it on a workout machine, and I have to read it from a couple of feet away, and that was getting to be a pain. And the full size Air makes that a lot better. Now, one thing I've got to say about the Air is it is impressively thin. Even though it doesn't measure that much thinner, it feels much thinner than the iPad mini and the previous iPad 2, I guess it was, before they went to the Air models. It is super thin. It weighs about a quarter pound more than the mini. And the interesting thing is, due to its larger size, if you hold it up next to a mini, if you feel them, they feel like they're about the same weight relative to their size. Like the mini feels a little more like a brick, and the Air feels a little lighter. And I think that's due to, you see this larger device and you expect it to feel heavier, and it doesn't feel much heavier. So it almost feels lighter than the mini, which is kind of an interesting effect. So I'm going to switch to another camera and talk about a few specific items about these two machines, and sort of fill you in on other details that comes off better if you see video of it. So here it comes. This is just a photo to show the relative thickness of the machines. The new iPad Air is on the left, and the iPad mini is on the right. You can see the difference in thickness is pretty much the thickness of the glass. Now here I'm showing the relative font sizes. And this is really the major reason that I wanted to upgrade, is because the mini's font size is, because it's a smaller screen, it's just a smaller font. And if your application that you're running, like I'm running a YouTube application here, I can't control the font, and at least I haven't discovered how to if I can. So I was finding that this font was just too small to read under certain conditions. I was having to pull it up closer to my face, and I didn't really want to. So it's just bigger enough on the full-size iPad that it's kind of made the difference that I was looking for. Same thing on the home screen. Everything's just a little bit bigger, a little easier to read. In terms of the brilliance of the screens, to me they're roughly equivalent. I've heard people say that iPad Airs have a better screen than the minis. It's not that obvious. I think it is a slight amount brighter. It's very hard to get that across in a video. As advertised, reflectivity is a lot lower on the new iPad. You can see it kind of has a purplish look as compared to the iPad mini. It's a big difference, but it's not like you're going to be reading it out in the sun comfortably or anything. Here's a more typical kind of use. This is the mini, and I'm reading with a window at my back. And then here I'm using the new iPad Air 2, and you can see it's a lot dimmer, but you can certainly still see the reflections. It's a big improvement though. One of my viewers asked if I could see any distortions in the screen if I pressed on the back of the new Air, and yes, I can. Only on the right hand side though. So it seems to be on that side of the screen you can cause a little distortion. You got to press fairly hard. It doesn't worry me much. Now switching over to the iPad mini, it really feels a lot stiffer, and you can't really cause that screen distortion that you can on the Air. Okay, before I mentioned that there's some workarounds for making the text a little larger on an iPad, in Safari anyway. And I haven't discovered, maybe there's a way, but I haven't discovered a way to make all fonts always show up a little larger in Safari. So this is the hack that I found. If you see right here that little plus sign, well that's a bookmark. That doesn't have a web address behind it. It actually has a little piece of what's known as JavaScript, which is a programming language that browsers run. So when I press this, that little program runs and it makes the font size on the page change. And it's not 100% perfect. You'll see, I think the font will actually get smaller before it gets larger. And it's also really hard to hit that button reliably, that little JavaScript button. And see, I'm not getting it. Eventually I'll hit it and see, I just switched tabs. I don't want to switch tabs. There we go. Now I happen to get it. Now you see how the font size is changing. So, you know, sometimes I would do this. I wouldn't necessarily go this large, but sometimes I would do this in order to read a page where the font that the designer had come up with was just way too small. So that was a workaround. Now that I've moved to the full-size iPad, first off, the text is not as small to start with. And I still have this bookmark because I basically copied the old iPad to the new. I still have this bookmark. It's a little easier to hit because it takes up a little more room on the screen, and I don't need to use it as often as I did on this guy. Okay, so there you have it. That's my impressions of the iPad Air 2 after owning it for about a week. And I'm definitely going to keep it. I'm going to sell the iPad mini. As much as I like that machine for my purposes, it's just ever so small, and I don't really want to have two iPads laying around the house. So I'll be letting that one go and living with the full-size iPad. And I think if you're in the market for an iPad and you don't want something really super portable, or you don't require that, then definitely the iPad Air 2, if you're interested in iPads anyway, that's going to be a really good choice for you. So I hope that helped. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later.